Hello, I'm Caspian from StrumTree, and today I'm going to share 5 common guitar practice mistakes that you should avoid if you want to become a great guitarist. Mistake number 1 is inconsistency, or if you like, inconsistent practice. You may think that you'll be able to cram all your guitar practice in once a week, but the reality is you'll progress a lot faster if you do smaller amounts of practice every single day. I might sit down once a week and practice for 2 or 3 hours non-stop, but if I'm only playing once a week, then it'd be really hard to keep up the stamina for 2 or 3 hours, and then the last hour or so of that practice will be very unfocused and unproductive. You would be better off playing 20 minutes a day every day of the week, totaling 140 minutes of practice, instead of sitting down playing 3 hours or 4 hours on one day. And the reason being is, if you practice for 4 hours one weekend, then a whole week passes, and at the end of the week when you go to practice again, you'll be scratching your head going, what was it that I practiced last week? You're not retaining any of the information you're learning. That's why it's better to do small chunks every single day. Mistake number 2 is not using a metronome. Now, I always say the metronome is your friend and mine because it keeps us in time. And you may think, oh, seriously? Well, often I come across students who have pretty sloppy timing, and I ask them, do they use a metronome? And the answer is almost always no. And you can really hear a difference in the quality of their playing, and in particular the confidence with their rhythms. I once came across a student who was really good at all the shredding stuff, the pentatonic scales on his guitar, and he came into class one day and started shredding, and everyone was pretty blown away by what he did. But as soon as we had to start playing as a group together, he couldn't keep in time, and he kept speeding up too fast, and he didn't know how to play along with a metronome. That's why it's so important to use a metronome in your practice. Not only does it prevent you from speeding up or playing too slow, but it also increases your confidence when to change, when to find the beat in a bar, and it will help you when you approach more complicated syncopated strumming patterns and other things with your guitar playing. Mistake number 3 is aimlessness. If you're not focused and you don't have a clear goal in mind with your practice, you're just gonna pick up the guitar, start strumming a few chords. You might do some noodling around, but you're not going to get anywhere. You're not actually getting better at your guitar skill. You're not learning new songs. So what's the point of practice if you don't have something you're working towards? Now, one thing that can help you focus is if you've got a performance coming up in the future that you have to practice for, or if you've got certain songs that you want to learn that are harder than you've been able to play before. These are all great things to help you have a goal in mind. So before each practice session, I have a list of songs that I want to work on, and they may be songs that I have to perform soon, or songs that I want to learn for my own enjoyment. And I actually keep a practice log so that at the end of every practice session, I just write down what I practiced, the things that I've been struggling with, and that means when I go to sit down and practice next time, I read what I did last time and it's all there. Oh, I know exactly, I need to focus on this section of this song, I need to practice this particular chord, and I'm going to practice playing through this set list of 4 or 5 songs. And then my practice session kind of takes care of itself, and that's really great. So it's very important to not be aimless, but have a clear goal in mind with your practice. Practice mistake number 4 is avoiding the hard bits. We're all guilty of this. We practice the songs that we find easy and fun, the things we enjoy, and we know there's that piece that we're supposed to be working on before our next lesson, but it just feels a little too hard for us. And so what we do is we go, oh, it's too hard, I'm gonna work on that later. And it's just a common thing with procrastinating in general. When something's a little bit out of our comfort zone, we tend to avoid it or push it off. And we can actually fall into a bad habit of pushing forward or delaying our practice sessions entirely for this reason. And I know for myself, if I've been working on a particular song that's a bit too hard for me, I sort of go, oh, I don't have much time to practice that today, so I guess I won't practice today, I'll practice tomorrow. It's very easy to slip into that bad habit of putting off practice because it's too hard. You'll find if you actually just sit down and work on a problem for 5 minutes or so, it might be easier than you think. And practice mistake number 5, our final one for this video, is creating a bad habit of playing with bad technique in your practice. When you're starting out to learn the guitar, you may need to really watch where your fingers are to change chords and to know how to change from a D to a C to a G, for example. But what might happen is you'll look at what you're doing by moving your guitar forwards like this, and then you have to play with a really bent wrist, and I'm actually bending my back to see what I'm doing, and I'm not playing with very good technique when the guitar's up like this. You need to have your guitar going up sideways and upright like this. So that's a common mistake people make when they're practicing, particularly having either a really bent wrist, or it's also not so good to have your thumb completely flat on the back of the neck like that, because you lose flexibility. You may even be practicing all those things well, but when you're playing your chords, you're getting that buzz because you're not practicing playing the chords of your fingers in the right position in the frets. So these little technique issues are important to keep in mind when practicing, because if you practice with a bad technique for long enough, it's going to be extra hard to unlearn those bad habits. The more you do something wrong, the harder it is to undo the wrongness. So now, to summarize and turn all those negatives into positives, how do you become great at practicing the guitar? Well, the first one is, of course, practice consistently. Little bits each day beats cramming a huge session once a week. Number 2 is always use a metronome. You'll improve your timing, your sense of rhythm, and your steadiness at the guitar. Number 3 is always have a clear goal in mind, so practice the pieces that are relevant to your learning. Number 4 is work on the hard bits. Don't just start from the beginning of a piece every time and skip the hard bits, but work on those challenging bits, and then they will eventually become the easy bits. And finally, number 5 is practice and be mindful of your good technique as you play. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already and sign up to the newsletter. The link is in the description. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.